a very different place compared to just 3 days ago. With Prime Minister Anwar here announcing the very ambitious National Semiconductor Strategy, we can look forward to major shift and upgrade in the months and years to come. And Prime Minister Anwar has set a clear vision and deliverables for a new era. The Prime Minister said, and I quote, "Our vision is to create an ecosystem driven by dynamic Malaysian firms and world-class talent, while partnering with global companies to compete regionally and globally based on innovation and creativity." And this will be achieved through the National Semiconductor Strategy's 3 phases. As you know, phase 1, building on our foundations. Number 2, phase 2, moving into the frontier. And phase 3, innovating at the frontier. I would not want to go into detail to repeat what the Prime Minister has said, but I would like to share with you why I think Prime Minister Anwar's speech and the approach of the Malaysian government has created conditions for a new era for the semiconductor industry in Malaysia. First, the approach by the Malaysian government, particularly the speech by the Prime Minister, has for the first time recognized the strategic role of the government in the semiconductor industry. Before this, MITI mainly regulates automotive industry and the steel industry. The semiconductor industry has always been taken as or considered as a private-led initiative, and therefore usually handled by MITI and usually driven by FDI. But understanding the changing global landscape and the importance of the semiconductor industry, Prime Minister Anwar has instructed that a National Semiconductor Strategy Task Force to be formed in February, and on 16th of April, at the National Investment Council, Prime Minister instructed that a National Semiconductor Strategy be drafted, and he unveiled it to you 3 days ago. This is very important because the semiconductor industry, or semiconductor, is the new oil of our time. There are 2 aspects of the oil analogy. The first part is oil brings prosperity, and semiconductor brings prosperity. But there is also a flip side, which is oil very often is also associated with conflict. And we will have to deal with the geopolitical part of the semiconductor industry, which is why the Prime Minister make it very clear. He said, and I quote, "I offer our nation as the most neutral and non-aligned location for semiconductor production to help build a more secure and resilient global semiconductor supply chain. And moving forward, we as a nation will have to also work with you, work closely with all our partners in order to create some form of semiconductor diplomacy." Particularly, Liew will be our ambassadors. Because we need to work with partners and to achieve what the Prime Minister has aspired, that is to make Malaysia a neutral and non-aligned location for semiconductor production. We will have to work with allies. We will have to work with friendly countries. We will have to work with everyone in order to create that conducive environment for a secure and resilient semiconductor supply chain. And therefore, my point is that it is really important that the government finally takes up a strategic role in the semiconductor industry. My second point is that this is also the first time that the government, through the Prime Minister, has recognized the need to grow Malaysian technology companies alongside FDI in the semiconductor industry. As the semiconductor industry was previously treated as private investment, FDI was the main driving force. But the second takeoff of the semiconductor industry shouldn't just be relying on FDI alone. We welcome FDI, as the Prime Minister has stated it very clearly. We would like to see a lot more FDI, but at the same time, we would also like to grow a very strong Malaysian scene. As pointed out by South Korean Professor Quan Lee, of his assessment of Taiwan, Shenzhen, and Penang in their localization of innovation capability, he pointed out that Penang is lagging behind Shenzhen in terms of creating domestic technology giant. And therefore, it's crucial that we must work together with FDI so that FDI could localize as much as possible, and in order to create a strong Malaysian scene as well as a regional cooperation for semiconductor industry. To this end, it is very important to note Prime Minister Anwar envisages that there will be at least 10 Malaysian technology companies with revenues between 1 billion ringgit to 1 billion US dollar. I think that is a very important aspiration. We currently only have about 10 companies that are at the range of about 1 billion ringgit revenue, but what we are hoping is that within a couple of years' time or within a decade time, these companies that are currently only having currently having about 1 billion ringgit revenue will be able to reach 1 billion US dollar within a couple of years or within a decade's time. And also, the Prime Minister noted that we want to create 100 semiconductor related Malaysian companies that are at the revenue of between 100 million ringgit to 1 billion ringgit revenue. Developing, as he pointed out, developing Malaysia as a global R&D hub for semiconductor featuring world-class universities, corporate R&D and center of excellence, landing the very best of Malaysia and international talent. I think this is something that we aspire to do. The third point I would like to make is that this approach by the Prime Minister and also by the Malaysian government is to recognize that the semiconductor industry is the most advanced industry of all, and we would like to see this industry paying higher and also creating more talent. The Prime Minister is committed to training 60,000 engineers to steer the exponential growth of the semiconductor industry. At the same time, he also called for higher wages for Malaysians in the industry, and that we also hope that this can come as a package. It will create a higher value industry, and this industry will be paying a lot more for Malaysians. As I always say, Malaysia doesn't have shortage of talent, just our talent are working in Singapore, so we need to find a balance. The fourth point I would like to make is that it has now been very clear that we recognize the ecosystem, and that ecosystem is what attracted many companies that have already stationed in Malaysia, and we would like to see a very strong ecosystem in order to create a very sticky, coherent and collaborative environment for a secure and resilient supply chain. Most existing semiconductor investors in Malaysia share a similar view. Malaysia's most important attraction is its ecosystem, especially the thousands of metal fabrication, precision engineering and equipment firms. The Netherlands pursued an equipment-led strategy to build its semiconductor industry around ASML. Equipment makers constitute a significant numbers of existing Malaysian technology firms with a revenue between 100 million ringgit to 1 billion ringgit. We will actively look out for ways to strengthen the ecosystem further, which will include attracting investment in special chemicals and critical minerals as outlined in the new Industrial Master Plan 2030. Prime Minister Anwar also touched on government plan to make renewable energy more easily available through third-party access starting from September. And to make Malaysia a strong global semiconductor hub, we will also need to work on collective action problems, what I call collective action problems, 5G, common wastewater treatment, waste, consistency and quality of provision of water and electricity, public transport for workers, decent and affordable housing for Malaysian workers and engineers. And I think these are the issues that we will have to work with you from the industry, and we will have to also work with state government, work with all stakeholders in order to create a very strong ecosystem. As I officially close the Semicon Southeast Asia 2024. I hope all of you are happy. I hope Linda is happy. I hope Siu Hai is happy. I hope all of you is happy with the promised new era for the Malaysian semiconductor industry and satisfied with the exchanges you have over the last few days. Prime Minister Anwar has not just shown the future for the Malaysian semiconductor industry, but has pointed out the path for the future that doesn't have to be bifurcated in the current geopolitical competition. We are facing difficult challenges. We are facing a potentially bifurcated global environment, and we hope that Malaysia can offer hope, and we hope Malaysia offers hope for a middle ground for geopolitics and a fertile ground for the most important global industry of our time, the semiconductor industry, to grow healthily and in the most resilient and secure manner. Thank you very much. I wish you well, and I hope this will be the start of a new era. Thank you very much.